Hello friends, welcome back to the RaoMoon Oracle. I'm Rao, and today we are continuing with our Spirit Advice series, Animal Kingdom Edition, the final chapter, at least for now, in terms of the Animal Spirit cards, chapter 5. So we've got 12 new animals today for you to look at and connect with and engage with, get advice from. So when you are ready, feel free to hop into the next part of the video. So we're going to have our 12 cards laid out. You can go look at them. They're going to be face down to start with and numbered, so you can just connect purely off of what the card looks like, intuition, and then you can hop into the timestamps down below and then hop to your group and where your animal will be revealed to you. Or you can wait a little bit longer and hop into the next part of the video, and all the cards will be revealed. They'll be in the upright so you can see the cards and see what animals there, what is calling to you, what one you might want to be engaged with today based on the color or the imagery or whatever's just standing out to you. And then you can hop into your group at that point, okay? So this will be our final chapter for at least the animal spirit cards. There might be different animal spirit cards that come in depending on another oracle deck I might get, and then we can continue this series at that point. But for now, we'll finish it up with chapter 5 here, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and when you're ready, hop into your groups, hop into the pick a card portion, and I'll see you over there, okay? Bye. Hello, welcome to the pick a group portion of this reading, picking a card, picking an animal, whatever you want to call it. So we've got our 12 cards laid out in front of us here with 12 different animals. So you can just go completely based off intuition here. The animal is not revealed until you click on your timestamp for your specific group. So going from top to bottom here, row number 1 up here. So this is going to be card number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then moving down a row, row 2 here, this is going to be card 5, 6, 7, 8. And then finally row 3 on the bottom, card 9, 10, 11, and 12. The numbers will be popping up here now, so that way you can look and figure out which card calls to you, which one you want to go based off maybe intuition, numerology, pendulum, whatever you feel called to do. So feel free to pause the video and really see which card resonates with you. And then when you are ready, feel free to join me in your group and next group, or if you want to see the animals face up, wait a little bit longer, and then we will do a reveal and show all the animals that are present for us in this reading today, okay? So either way, I'll see you in your group when you're ready, or in the next part of the video here in a second, okay? See you soon. Hello, welcome to our animals revealed now here for Spirit Animal Advice, or Spirit Advised Animal Kingdom Edition, Chapter 5. So we have our 12 animals laid out here, so just a couple things I wanted to point out in terms of this reading as a whole. I think in the last one we had a lot of water energy, if I remember correctly. I'd have to go back and double check, but this video is very heavily dominated by fire energy and air energy here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 air cards out, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fire cards out. So very dominant, heavy in terms of fire and creativity and passion energy, and then being fed by the air energy here, which is that transformation mind. We only have 2 water cards out, which is our otter and our octopus, and only 1 earth card. So not a very grounded reading for this one in terms of earth energy, but I just want to point that out there. It's interesting, and it definitely came through in the individual readings for Spirit Animal Advice for how the cards were very similar to each other in terms of like transformation energy or passion or those kinds of factors playing in. So we'll label our number, get our animals labeled here with our numbers here, so you can hop into your group when you're ready. So top row over here, on the top here, card number 1 is the otter. Card number 2, or group number 2 is the butterfly. Group number 3 is the bee, and group number 4 is the eagle. Then row down, group number 5 is the snake. Group number 6 is the hyena. Group number 7 is the gazelle. Group number 8 is the octopus. Then our last row here, group number 9 is the elephant. Group 10 is the crow. Group 11 is the zebra, and group 12 is the camel. The numbers will be popping up here, so that way take a sec. If you're going based off your connection to a specific animal, if it's present here, or what animal is drawing your eye, just take a sec, pause the video if you feel like you need to, see what colors draw you in maybe. Use your intuition, of course. You can pendulum again if you need to, if you're coming in from the other reading just based off numbers. Maybe there's a specific number that calls to you. Whatever feels good to you, whatever resonates. Maybe there's a specific color, or like the moon's here, if the moon's here, if that's a thing that's usually calling out to you. The sun's there. We've got different elements here, right? We got some fire, we got color, air. You can see the air here, you can see the fire here. So just keep those all things in mind, whatever's drawing your eye in this regard, okay? But when you're ready, go hop down to the timestamps below and join me in your group when you're ready for your spirit advice for today. Have a good one. See you there. Bye. Hello, group number one, my otter group. Otter. So otter is actually one of my favorite energies. I actually studied otter a lot when I was really little. We had to do like an animal project in like elementary school, and I chose the sea otter one year and the river otter the next year because otters were just super fascinating to me, and I really liked that energy that otters had. So otter energy, it is a very playful energy. It is a very smooth water energy. If you look at an otter like at a zoo or something, the way they move through the water is super fluid, right? They move through the water just like leaps and bounds and moving through, and that's where that kind of playful energy comes in as well. They are super playful creatures with each other, with their offspring, just in general. You'll see otters like at the zoo or whatever playing with like kids as they're swimming back and forth and moving through. They just have this energy about them that is very youthful and joyful and childlike. So depending on what's going on in your life, right, it might be an energy that you need to like tame and kind of pull back on, or it might be an energy you need to push more and have in your life, right? So maybe you're a little too free-spirited right now. Maybe you're out partying and having a lot of fun, right? But we need to temper that with some more serious energy, right? Because if we are not paying attention to our emotions and things, that's when we kind of get into this like party avoidance energy that can happen sometimes. And that's because we're trying not to face something, right? We're trying to avoid something. We're trying to numb that feeling, numb that pain, whatever it might be here. And with this otter energy, you're fully submersed in it without even realizing it, right? Otters are live within the water or participate in the water. Their home's pretty much on the water. While there might be not a water creature that breathes, like lives in water specifically, like underneath the water, they are in water constantly and all the time here. So that's an energy to kind of keep in mind. And if you need to like balance it out with some more grounding energy, if you need to actually dive into your emotions in a deeper way that's not playful fun of like surface level top here and where you're trying to avoid something. On the other side though, maybe you're too serious right now at this time and you need some more playful energy. You need to find that thing that brings you joy and playfulness and fun back into your life, feeling childlike again, having that energy and movement, right? Because when we come back to things that make us happy, make us passionate, at the end of the day, that gave us joy as a child, that is a boundless energy, right? That's an energy that keeps giving, that keeps us moving, that keeps us flowing, that keeps us feeling young, right? If that energy is moving through us all the time, these emotions of playfulness and happiness and joy, if we can channel that in a proper way, in a way that is in a way that's going to be beneficial, then it will keep giving us boundless energy as time moves forward, as time moves on, as time flows, right? Time flowing like the water, our waters and our emotions. And also the energy of otter here, right? When I was picturing it and thinking through with that joyful, playful energy that that otter has, it's also an energy where we are very in tune with our emotions at the same time, right? You think of that otter moving through the water, moving through and flowing. So an otter person that is in balance is somebody that is very in tune with their emotions as well. So something to strive for, something to be like, okay, we're playful and joyful and having fun, but we are aware of what's going on, the emotional depths that we're working through and moving through and engaging with, and just letting it pass, right? An emotion is only lasts, I think it's like 90 seconds in our body, something like that is what I heard at one point. So if we just let it flow, let it move through us, and it'll dissipate and move on, versus staying with it, thinking about it, ruminating over it. We don't have joy when we're ruminating over something, right? And then that emotion gets stuck. We get stuck in that emotion. That emotion stays with us and it's constantly bogging us down. It's getting heavy. It's weighing us down, right? And we can't move freely and move joyfully and flow like this otter energy if we get stuck in that emotion. So think about your emotions. Think about what might be feeling kind of sticky right now. Think about how you can flow through your emotions, and do that by finding that thing that brings you joy, that brings you that childlike joy again, right? Blowing some bubbles potentially, like go buy some bubbles at the dollar store and blow a bunch of bubbles, or there's like adult kind of like playgrounds or different things, like go to like the amusement park or something, like go ride a roller coaster, things like that, that like bring that childlike fun and innocence and joy and laughter back, because that'll help dissipate and move the sticky energy that might be here, okay? It'll help break it up and let you flow and move through it properly. So just take a second to identify what otter energy, specifically if you need to tamper it down a little bit, ground it a little bit more, make sure you're in tune with your emotions. Either way, you have to be in tune with your emotions here with otter, or if you need to just let some joy and flow kind of go in your life. Either way, with otter, we do flow through our emotions and we have joy, but we just need to make sure how it is working through with us, okay? So that is otter energy group number 1. Hopefully that resonates. Feel free to pick another animal in this group, or in this video specifically. There are many more to pick from, or in the previous videos. We got 4 other videos in this series. This is chapter 5 out of 5 total. So there's lots of videos for you to look at and connect with a different animal energy if you feel called to do so, because this just might be the energy for the day, the month, week, year, who knows. That's going to be up to you and your intuition and what you feel like you need, okay? But that's all I have for you, friends. See you in the next reading. Have a good day. Bye. Hello, group number 2, the butterfly group. Butterfly. Okay, butterfly should be a pretty obvious one for the most part for anybody who kind of has some spiritual background or knowledge, right? Of course, butterfly, transformation energy, heavy transformation energy. Butterfly and moth are kind of both this energy here, because they go through a similar process, right? That crawly creature that goes into that cocoon / chrysalis and then emerges as a flying creature. So with butterfly energy, we definitely have heavy transformation energy here. So it's going to be up to you kind of to where you want to look in your life and where this is. Usually butterfly energy is pretty obvious for the most part. Because it's a very rapid change usually. There's other creatures that go through this like metamorphosis kind of process, but that take a much longer period of time, like dragonfly, for example. Dragonfly transformation process is usually in like the years time frame, versus a butterfly can be much more rapid by comparison. This will vary a little bit, of course, but it's going to be a little bit more rapid transformation, a little bit more abrupt, and one that you'll kind of feel. So you should know where this energy is taking place for you in your life, whether it's in a career, job field, if it's in a relationship, if it's in just a spiritual context where you feel like you're just going through this leveling up process. And usually this is going to be a leveling up, right? That transformation from one creature to another, it's a complete change of self, but at the same time it is a level up, a changing and a getting better in this case, where it's like, okay, you have more knowledge, you have more access to things, you have the different abilities that you didn't have before, right? Think about a caterpillar and it's on leaves and crawling around. It's more of a ground creature. Versus a butterfly that can fly and has access to this higher intellect that is air, that is that element specifically, and moving through that, and all the much more spiritual access for sure that comes with air energy and the butterfly specifically here. So look at what's kind of going on in your life and make sure you're not resisting this energy. Resisting butterfly transformation energy can actually be quite painful in my experience. It's not going to go well is kind of a simple way to say it. It's a transformation that's going to happen either way once you've already started this transformation process. If it wasn't going to happen before, or you wanted to prevent it or not go through this process, then it needed to be stopped earlier technically. Once you're already kind of in that chrysalis point, then you're just you have to finish going through the process and let it finish out as it is and to emerge. But you'll be happy that you did. Butterfly energy is always good. It can be a painful process sometimes, and it can be a life-changing process. It can be a process that leaves you kind of off kilter for a while after you finish, but once everything kind of settles and you settle into your new self and these new abilities, that more honest version of yourself, you'll come through and feel much more happy and joyful, having that ability to fly, to move through, and have a sense of freedom here that wasn't there before with butterfly energy. So yeah, if you're in that middle of the transformation process, yes, for sure, there's some hardships and pain kind of going through it, but it's kind of a discomfort or a pain to kind of lean into, so the process can be finished faster in this case. If you accept what's happening and let the process move through you, then the process will go much more smoothly and should be less painful overall, okay? And how we kind of do it, the advice for butterfly, at least in the Animal Spirit Guidebook, it talks about daily routines or things you can hold on to, right? If you have everything else around your life that is changing and transitioning, what do you have the power internally to keep steady as you work through this process? So you do want some grounding energy here in order as everything else is changing around you here. So do you meditate every single day, right? Keep at that. If you journal every single day, or maybe you need to do something like this. Maybe you go to the gym every single day, or you have the specific days of the week, something that you can kind of hold on to that is steady and consistent while everything else is changing around you. Will make the process easier to go through, okay? My butterfly group here. And then once this process does finish out, once you feel it's finishing up, it's kind of letting like the energy starting to dissipate here. And then at that point, that's when we can reevaluate everything that's kind of happened, right? We don't want to stick to the same routines and old versions of ourselves that no longer exist in this case, right? We want to have a fresh look, use our fresh eyes to take a look at everything kind of happening in our life and see what else might need to change, or now that we're a different version of ourselves, a better version of ourselves, what now can we do to match that energy that is now present, right? You don't want to be a new version of yourself and still do the same things, the same old things that held you back potentially, right? So we want to take a look at that energy today and with this butterfly energy. So usually for butterfly energy, it's an energy that is not consistent over many years. So more likely this is just going to be the energy for a day, a week, month, maybe a year. I can't see it really going too far beyond that. That might be a different transformation energy than if it is going beyond that point. But if you feel like called to do so, feel free to pick another card in this video. There are more animals to connect with, or in the previous videos. This is chapter 5, so there are 5 videos total, 4 other videos besides this one where you can connect with different animals, okay? So if you feel called to do so, feel free to pick another animal when you feel ready for it. But otherwise, that is all I have for us today, friends. Hopefully that resonates with you, butterfly group, and I will see you in another reading. Have a good day. Bye. Hello, group number 3, the bee group. So, bee energy here. Bees, definitely, we have that aspect of a colony here, right, with bees. So there is an opportunity here for collaborative effort, for working in a community, working with a group, energy that is present here. And also the bee is a very hardworking individual. Many bees working together create this beautiful hive. They take care of their young, making sure everything gets built and fed, and just taking care of the queen. All those pieces exist here, right? So when bee energy comes in, see where you need to put in a little bit more hard work, more dedication potentially in something, where you kind of need to put your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and just really work on something and really get that piece done that you've maybe have a project that you've been working on for a really long time and you're just a little bit like you have a little bit more to go. So you just need to push that little bit more to finish up the project that you're working on, especially if this is a project you're working collaboratively with a group on. There's just a little bit more to go here, a little bit more hard work to put in, and it pays off in the long run, right? Lots of energy coming in here. Bee energy, though, can also be very frantic, so make sure to kind of pay attention to that as well, right? We want to make sure the energy is deliberate and dedicated hard work versus flying around, right? A bee that gets overworked or has too much energy tires itself out and starts stinging people, right? We don't want to be the energy that is stinging others, hurting others, because we ourselves are so overworked. So it's diligent and determined effort, but it's measured effort at the same time, if that makes sense. It's measured effort because you think about like the hive, right, in these hexagon shapes that get built in the honeycomb here. That is a very powerful shape, a very strong shape, but that's where that diligent effort comes in here. So we want to make sure that we're finding this effort, this hard work that we're using in a way that is going to benefit everybody as a whole and benefit ourselves. So that way we don't overwork ourselves, but we also have built something beautiful that we've wanted to create, that we've wanted to make, that is going to be beneficial to everybody else, not just us as well, okay? So keep that in mind here with bee energy. That frantic energy comes back here, right, where it's like the frenzy, kind of like mob mentality too. So that's something to just keep in mind, right? Pay attention when you're in groups, or these like really, really big groups. Think like a concert, or like a sporting event or something like that. Like especially if like you're in like a pit, like mosh pit or something for like a concert, be very wary of that, right? for some reason. This is kind of popping up here, where it just makes sure that you are aware of your surrounding, what's going on, that the energy, pay attention to the energy around you, because if you feel it's getting frantic or there's a little bit it's too rushed or chaotic, that you can get yourself in a position of safety, because those can be very, very dangerous situations right away, very rapidly without any warning. So just a word of caution there for some reason that's popping up here. Hopefully that makes sense to somebody. Hopefully it's beneficial to somebody out there that's watching this bee group. But otherwise for bees, if you need some advice or trying to get this bee energy into your life, dancing's going to be a really good one. The image that popped in my head was from the Magic School Bus, actually. And there's an episode where they're in a beehive and we see the bees dancing, right? Making these dancing these patterns on the floor for communication. So there's an aspect of communication here through dance, through movements, through moving our bodies. So that communication to ourselves, communication to others. So look into your life and where you might need to work on your communication, but the energy of dancing and movement, flight coming in here with bee as well. So lots of different aspects here for bee. I wasn't thinking too much more, but as I keep talking and thinking about like these different images popping in my head for bee, I'm like, oh yes, this, and then this, and then this. So that bee energy kind of working overtime in my brain too as well, right? All the bees kind of rattling around in there. That's a TikTok reference if anybody gets it. But we want those bees working calmly and diligently. Bees do not harm humans if they are in a calm environment, right? If we're not shaking that hive, disturbing the bees, they can actually be very, very gentle creatures at the same time, but it's only when they get riled up, or if we get riled up, we get ourselves too overworked, we're in too chaotic of an energy, or there's too much chaos around us, then that's when that stinging energy comes out, that swarming energy, and we want to make sure to steer clear of that, okay? So keep that all in mind for bee energy. Quite a few different caveats and kind of paths there to keep in mind, but that's what we got for bee energy. It might just be the energy for the day, week, month, year. That's going to be up to you and your intuition and what resonates and what makes sense for you. So just keep that in mind, really tune in with your intuition, see what makes the most sense for you. But feel free to pick another animal in this video. There are 4 other videos besides this one for a total of 5 videos of different animals you can pick from and connect with. So if you feel called to do so, feel free to pick another animal across all the videos. So that is all I have for us today, friends. I hope you enjoyed this little section, this little pick a group, pick a card, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 4, the Eagle group. Eagle. So if you are around from the United States / America, that is a very prevalent and well-known bird, at least in American culture. It is seen as a symbol of freedom in a lot of ways, and this actually does translate into the original definition, more the spiritual inclinations and spiritual meaning of the bird. Eagle, well known and visual representation of a lot of transformation energy, a lot of air and fire energy here, right? So we see with this card specifically, right, the eagle with the sun kind of in its talons at the bottom of the card here. So that fire energy is present, and of course the eagle flies, so this is air energy as well. Mastery over both of those elements, with it being a very striking bird. You can immediately tell when you're looking at a bald eagle. It has very distinct features. We actually had one that we had a nest around here by my house, because there's a lake right here. So it's actually very cool to see an eagle up close and more personal and kind of in its natural environment. And these birds are massive, 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 massive. So there is a lot of power in this card. So for somebody coming to this group for spirit advice, taking a look at your power, how your power is distinct and showing up in the world. You have probably a more very distinct personality, or whatever power this is showing up for, or showing around. It has a very specific look and feel to it. So just something to kind of keep in mind. It might be a very high profile project or something like this. So keep that in mind. Eagle also has a lot of transformation energy with it, and that kind of karmic fire, karmic release process happening here. So we have another transformation card animal in this video, which is the butterfly, group number 2. So there might be a connection there. Just by the way, it was very interesting to have two transformation animals in this video so far as I'm working through the animals here. Eagle is a very, very strong creature with very, what's the other word I want here? Let me look at the guidebook real quick for this one. There's a thought I had for it and I was just like, what is that one? I can't remember. So our keywords: all-pervading power, truth seeker, transforms karma. When in balance, it is bright, radiant of challenges, to bring into balance, stepping into the unknown. When we're out of balance, it can be controlling. Bright. I think that was the word I wanted. So the eagle pushes us to be our best and brightest selves and stops at nothing to see us shine. And that's is representative too in the coloring of the bird, right? We have that white head for an eagle. And that is showing that connection to spirit. That is showing that connection to a higher power, a higher realm, and that knowledge coming through, right? Especially through that crown chakra. So that is something for you to kind of keep in mind too, that you have access to more higher spiritual level gifts, that there is this ability and knowledge here available to you, and that might be what the karma and the transformation process is leading you into for Eagle specifically today, my friends, where it's like, okay, hey, pay attention to these things, pay attention to this power you have that you might not have known, this more spiritual psychic realm of energy and abilities and skills that you can learn and develop and grow over time. And in order to get access to some of these abilities, that's where the karma usually comes in, right? We go through these karmic processes, karmic cycles, karmic lessons, and then once they finish and we finish them out and have put those finally to bed, right, where that transformation process is finished, we have leveled up, we have grown, we have learned more, so we keep like just growing and growing and growing, and that gives us access to higher and higher abilities. That expands our abilities and our awareness, where that's this expansion energy getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Think of that sun in the middle for this card, right? Showing up in the card where it's just that sun getting bigger and enlarging and growing and growing. So this ability that we might have in terms of eagle energy here, it's like, okay, hey, let's pay attention to this, let's grow this, let's foster it, let's lean into that transformation energy, that heavy fire, air energy. Fire and air build each other up usually, right? So we have that flames on the bottom here and that fire feeding it and helping it grow and expand, if you think about a wildfire, right? So there's a lot of wildfire energy here as well in that term, but make sure with wildfire energy, that's where what the book was saying here, where it can get controlling, it can get out of control, that wildfire energy. We want to make sure it is contained in doing what it needs to in a healthy way, right? If we're thinking about a forest fire burning through the forest, that it's beneficial and healthy for the environment, but that is when they're happening consistently at a time in the timetable that is natural for the environment, and burning at that low like ground fuel, that burning that up so other things can grow and move through this process that is natural for the ecosystem, versus when they're not around or haven't been happening, they get burned too hot and out of control. So we want to make sure this energy here for eagle is controlled, not tamed. We don't want to tame the eagle for sure, but we want to make sure that it is managed. It is chaos kind of guided here, right? We don't control the sun, but we can kind of control how much we have and when and where, right? So just keep that in mind for eagle energy today. Lots of different energy kind of coming in here for this animal specifically, but this might just be the energy of the day, maybe a month, week, year, who knows? It's going to be up to you and your intuition and what resonates and makes sense for you. So hopefully that does make sense. Hopefully that does apply for your situation potentially. If not, feel free to pick another animal in this video series. There is 12 animals total in this video, and then there's 4 other videos besides this one for a total of 5 videos, so lots of animals to choose from and connect from. So feel free to pick another one if this wasn't the one for you, or if you feel called to do so, okay? Well, that's all I have for us today, friends. I will see you in the next reading. Have a good day. Bye. Hello, group number 5, the snake group. So snake energy here. With snake, in terms of mythos and meaning, spiritual meaning, right? There is definitely a lot of transformation energy here. Transformation is so far seeming like a theme for this chapter 5 video here, because it's the third animal I've talked about that has some kind of transformation energy to it, I believe. So with snake energy here specifically, right, we have that shedding process that usually happens, right? A snake sheds its skin after a certain point as it keeps growing, as it keeps getting bigger and maturing and moving through life. There's that shedding of that old skin that happens, right? To make room for the new, to get rid of something that doesn't quite fit anymore. If you think about like dead skin on your body somewhere, right? And you're kind of that, like, it's like a little itchy is kind of what it feels like. That's like my fingers are doing this. And that itchiness is just that like little push, that irritation, that discomfort to let this thing finally go, let this discomfort finally pass, let this, we're staying in something too long potentially, where we need to let this thing shed, let it move away from ourselves. A good way to do this, if the skin is stuck, right? I've seen this in a video actually about a snake shedding randomly that's popping into my mind now, is to actually soak in water. So water, of course, very, very healing energy for us. Connecting to our emotions. Water is very cleansing as well. So if you feel something where it's like it's hard to let go of something right now, if there's something in your life that you're just like it doesn't fit anymore, but you can't quite like figure out a way to let go, taking a bath would probably be really good. If you have some like hot springs nearby you, that might be a good idea as well. Go for a swim, something where you can get in some water, let your body loosen up, so your skin loosen up, right? Like where everything just kind of like that hot water, especially, that just is a cleansing process. That's a relaxation process. If you manage to go to like hot springs or something, there's lots of good minerals in the water, so that is very beneficial and healing in that regard. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of moving forward with snake energy here, where it's going to be very important to get in some water so you can finally shed this skin, because it feels like it's just like sticking, right? That's where my like fingers keep doing this thing, right? I'm like, it's just the skin feels like it's sticking. I want to like pull this skin off because it hasn't moved, it hasn't rubbed off yet like it should be, right? A snake out in the wild rubs against sand and rocks, and as it's like slithering through its environment, right? And that helps the skin finish shedding and pulling off of the snake, so this new skin can come through. With snake energy here, right, if especially with the coloring that's in this card, this kind of purple and blue and green color, there is tying into like Kundalini energy, that is tying in with like Vedic and Indian and that kind of culture and those spiritual belief processes, yoga, yogi, those kinds of things. I don't have a ton of knowledge myself about it, but the basic for Kundalini energy, right, is that moving up through the chakras, this energy, this awakening process that happens with snake and Kundalini energy. So this card specifically from the Animal Spirit book is talking about an awakening process that's happening. This untapped potential that is sitting at the base of the snake, right, this top of the tail where the snake's biting its own tail. We'll get to that imagery in a minute, but the untapped potential that's here, that hasn't been awakened yet, that hasn't been transformed and developed and grown yet. So there is that potential here, right? If we wake up to our knowledge of ourselves and our abilities, what things are possible for us, what can we do? That's where this color comes in with Kim Krans' card specifically, is coloring, showing that creativity, that potential, unlimitless potential here. So very powerful energy for snake there. And this transformation process that's happening, and this knowledge that is taking place. Finally, with the snake card here, we have the concept of infinity, right? The snake biting its own tail. So these leveling up processes, these cyclical processes that happen in our life, these learning processes, how I always talk about it with my friends, right, is like we come back around to things that we thought we'd like finished up, or that we thought were finished, like we learned that lesson, right? But it's an upward spiral. So as you keep moving up, right, you end up at the same point. This is what the point where this thing happened when we're working through, but we're spiraling up, so we meet the same point again, but it is at a higher level, with a higher understanding, with a higher level of consciousness and awareness. And then maybe it's like, okay, we process a lot here at this point, we spiral up again and we meet this point, and we're still dealing with a little bit more of it. It comes back around, we still have those thoughts about it, but it's so far removed at this point that it is just those feelings and emotions and those lessons that's past in our lives. But it's always a cycle, the same point, or this is a spiral, but it's a spiral upward at least. So we can still learn and grow and process and change from this, okay? So keep that in mind with snake energy, right? If we're looking at the card here, and just picture that spiral as it's an upward moving spiral, and that's also the energy moving upward in Kundalini as it's processing, and that growth moving upward for potential and new options and new opportunities and magic at the end of the day, okay? So very interesting, strong energy for snake here. Keep those few things in mind. Where do you need to look at? What untapped potential do you have? Where do you need to kind of look at that? Where do you need to finish shedding the skin, move that skin off so you can reveal new things about yourself and new things coming up? And just keep all that in mind, okay? But this might just be the energy for the day, maybe a week, a month, year. I don't know. It's going to be up to you and your intuition and what resonates for you makes sense. But feel free to pick another animal in this video. There are 12 other animals to pick from in this video, and then there are 5 total videos now in the series. So plenty of animals to choose and interact with if you feel called to do so, okay? But that's all I have for us today, friends. I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 6, the hyena group. Hyena energy. This one is an interesting one. I actually had to do a little bit more thought, and I didn't research it too much, but I had to just kind of think through what I knew about hyenas, because the book itself didn't give me like a ton more information on it. So it was really interesting to kind of think through hyena and that energy that is present with this card. So hyena energy in the Animal Spirit Guidebook, it talks about the humor and the laughing and that kind of like sarcastic energy that's present with this card, that's present with the animal, right? So when you think about hyenas, you definitely, like, the scene that pops in my head immediately is the hyenas laughing in The Lion King, right? So being very well known for that cackling sound that they make. So that humor is present here, and what the Animal Spirit Guidebook talks about for this card specifically is like looking at where you're using humor in your life to compensate or to hide emotions. If you're using sarcasm to hide how you're really feeling, right, in a situation, or you're being falsely positive, almost like you're laughing at everything and trying to make things a joke and happy making others laugh, which is not always a bad thing, right? There is a time and place for laughter to help release tension and to help energy flow again. When energy gets really, really heavy and dark, there's room for laughter there, obviously, to help lighten the mood, to help bring light into the situation, right? We see that with this card specifically, with the 2 halves of the moon, the light and the dark on either side right there, right? So, and especially with this card too, there's a lot of black and white, no really color in this card, which is very interesting for a Kim's Krans card. When there's a lack of color, that's almost as much of a big deal as the color is in a Kim Krans specific style of creation and energy in a card. So with this one, right, or that full moon there, it's that positive and negative, that dark and light. So definitely there is room for humor right now in whatever situation you might be coming into. There's an opportunity for humor to help lighten the mood, to help bring fresh and happy energy into a situation, but to make sure at the same time, right, if there's the proper place and time for it, to make sure that we're using humor in a proper way versus using it to cover up how we're actually feeling. And humor that is, or laughter that is used at an inappropriate time can actually be harmful and hurtful. So just something to keep in mind with this card with that hyena. Something I did want to mention with hyena energy as well, though, that I remember just from my own learning about the animal over a long period of time, is the maternalness, like the way the kind of the packs run. They're a very matriarchal society in hyenas. So there is advice here to look at your relationships with female figures in your life, mothers, grandmothers, sisters, just female friends in general, and making sure that those relationships are strong, right? We think about that pack mentality that wolves have, hyenas have in this case, and that pack mentality being present in order for everybody to be safe, to be fed, to be happy, to be healthy, right? So, and then when those situations are in place, then that's when we have that joy and humor and laughter coming through with the hyena as well. So making sure we're fostering those feminine and female relationships. This can also be your like feminine side in yourself. It doesn't matter if you are masculine or feminine, if you are male or female, however you identify. Everybody has a masculine and feminine side. So looking and working with your feminine side and that feminine energy and making sure it's nurtured and taken care of properly, so we are a balanced individual, right? We're looking at that moon again here in this case, in the balance of the light and the dark, the positive and the negative. So we want to make sure we're balanced as a whole. And that is where this whole card kind of comes back around to, is balance, right? So we have this heavy despondent situation maybe, and bringing humor and light and laughter back into it to help balance it out, right? It's super heavy, it's down here, so then we bring in laughter and light to help balance them out. We're too serious about it, life or something that's going on, so watching like a comedy show or something to get that laughter back in, balancing it out. Or we are too frivolous and too party hard almost, right? And that's that energy, the light, quote unquote light energy, being too heavy on its kind of in its negative aspect, and then balancing out with a little bit more darker, like focused, grounded aspect to help bring this back into balance as well. Okay, and making sure our feminine and our masculine are balanced as well. So take a look in your lives, take where you might need to balance something out, depending on how the situation applies to you here with the animal spirit advice. If you need to be a little bit more serious, if you need to be a little bit more light, if you need to be a little bit more feminine or a little bit more masculine, however you need to balance all these energies out, is going to be the advice for the hyena card here specifically, okay? So hopefully that resonates, hopefully that makes sense for whoever has picked this group, group number 6, right? I think we're on 6. So but this just might be the energy for the day, a week, month, maybe a year, who knows. That's going to be up to you and your intuition and whatever resonates and makes sense for you. So if you feel called to do so, feel free to pick another animal in this video or in the previous 4 videos. There's 12 animals in this video, and then there's 12 in each of the other 4 videos for a big total. We have 5 videos total in this series, so plenty of animals to choose from and connect from if you don't feel like this is your animal, or if you feel called to another animal, depending on your situation, okay? But hopefully that makes sense for you. Hopefully that resonates. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Hello, group number 7, the Gazelle group. So what I thought was interesting when I was first looking at this card was that the Gazelle was a fire card. I thought that was interesting. It makes sense in terms of like the environments that a gazelle lives in. This one is more present in what looks like Africa. That's kind of the more like deserty, savanna kind of environment. So a lot of heavy sun, more fire energy in that regard, right? It's also followed by, in this book series specifically with the animal zodiac or animal spirit, the guidebook, right, it's followed by the cheetah. So it's kind of funny with the animals, there is like a predator-prey relationship. One follows after the other usually in this guidebook specifically. So that just kind of tied it more into the savannah and Africa for me. But with gazelle specifically, right, there, and others in this kind of species and kind of like the deer species, right, there is a grace and a flow that these creatures have. There is lots of elegance here almost, right? The movement is very elegant, it's very graceful. There is lots of, it's almost a beautiful kind of peaceful energy at the same time, but because it's really fast and delicate while being very powerful and powerful at the same time, okay? So with gazelle here specifically, what we're kind of looking at in terms of energy, in terms of spirit advice, right, is the hyper awareness or hyper vigilance that this creature can have, right? With it being a prey species and the archetype of a deer slash gazelle, whatever, being a prey species all across the globe, there is a very specific energy that is there for making sure you are aware of your surroundings, making sure you're protecting yourself, taking care of yourself, because there is predation that happens with this species, with this animal. But it's the circle of life, so to speak, almost at the same time. There is a purpose and a place for everything. So with gazelle, right, it's not a bad thing to be aware of things, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of how your actions affect yourself and others. None of that is a problem to be aware of, right? But where we get in the a detrimental energy potentially with gazelle here that there's advice coming in for is to make sure we're not overdoing it. We're not being the like more hyper vigilant, like neurotic almost at the same time, right? Where it's like we can think of details and we can think of how we want to be like safe in our environment, right? But then can get so bad that we don't leave the house at all potentially, or we worry about like even being attacked in our own home potentially, right? If you let yourself go down that rabbit hole, if you let your mind go down in those anxious thoughts, then it just keeps spiraling and never gets better, right? So there is a balance where it's like making sure you're staying safe, making sure you're taking care of things, making sure you're balancing that energy with making like not letting it get to you, not letting it rule over your life at the same time, right? We can do the same thing with like feelings, right? I used to do this when I was younger, where I was very aware of other people's emotions and feelings, the kind of empathic energy. So I'd be very aware of what I was saying and making sure that I wasn't going to hurt anybody by saying like the wrong thing or doing the wrong action. But it got so bad, I did this so much to the point where I wouldn't even say things I needed to say. Things like saying like, oh, I wouldn't say, hey, this hurt me, because I was worried about the other person's feelings more so than my own feelings. I wasn't taking care of myself. So there's a balancing act where we can go so far into trying to take care of ourselves or keeping ourselves safe, that we actually hurt ourselves in the long run. So just keep that in mind here with gazelle energy. That's been the main thing kind of coming through. It is a very peaceful and graceful energy, and there is creative energy here as well, especially with that fire element, that movement and flow that the gazelle has, right? Think about like the flow of dance, the flow of movement. So that might be something you need to kind of include in your life in order to kind of get it back into balance. Is where can you move your body? Where can you pull this grace, this elegance, this energy in that just has a light air about it? So dancing is going to be a really good thing potentially. Swimming, that like movement through water, even though it is a fire sign in this case, just something that kind of came to mind. So figure out ways in your life where you can move. Taking a drive maybe is another one that popped into my head, but those kind of elements are going to be here and helpful for a gazelle energy to make sure you're just staying balanced and consistent and not getting too bogged down by life by letting your brain go down that rabbit hole and getting too far down. Okay, let me double check real quick for making sure I didn't miss anything with this one, because it's not a common animal. Heightened awareness, ability, vulnerable. When in balance, graceful, perceptive, artistic. When out of balance, racing mind, to bring into balance. Yin yoga, cozy home, and good food. So just, yeah, making sure you're taking care of yourself in a balanced way by not overdoing anything. Okay, so that's the main energy for gazelle for this group, for group number 7 here. But this just might be the energy of the day, maybe a week, month, year, who knows? That's going to be up to you and your intuition and what makes sense and resonates for you. Feel free to pick another animal in this video. There are 11 other animals to pick from, or feel free to pick another animals, go to another video in this series. There's a lot of other animals that you can choose and interact with. There's a total of 5 videos in this series now, so plenty of animals for you to engage with and get advice from if you feel called to do so, needed. Okay, but that's all I have for us today, friends. Hopefully it resonates with you and makes sense, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. And then group number 8, the octopus group. So octopus energy is a unique one. I'm finding as I'm working through the different animals here, there is common themes across like the animals in line, right? So there are themes of boundaries with this one, which was the same thing I kind of talked about a little bit with gazelle in the last one. So it's just been kind of a common theme where it's like, okay, here's a set of themes and that several animals kind of cover at the same time, but in different ways. So with octopus, right? Octopus, a very, very smart creature, very, very smart. You like read stories about them in like the aquarium and how they work their way, through puzzles. They can escape their confinement and like travel and move. Like there was this one I remember reading about or hearing about where there were fish in another tank that were disappearing, that was across the like aisle from an octopus tank, and the octopus was climbing out of its tank at night, crawling over the aisle into the fish tank, eating the fish, and then coming back. So the mind and the abilities that an octopus has is really brilliant, especially for a non-mammal species. There are many, many animals out there that we don't perceive as smart in the way we perceive smart, but they are. So just an interesting thing to note, and we see this intelligence and creativity in the octopus card here, specifically with the color around the top of the head so to speak, of the octopus. Focus in on me, please. Camera, hello. There we go. So something to keep in mind with octopus here, though, because they are so smart, they are able to actually fit in lots of different environments, right? So we can see octopus going through like a really teeny tiny little hole. Some of them, like a lot of them, can change colors and blend in with their surroundings, right? So this is really good energy for flexibility and going with the flow, right? But at the same time with octopus, and in the terms of like the animal spirit guidebook for what Kim Krans talks about, the octopus also doesn't have like a lot of boundaries with itself, within themselves, and with others, because it can blend so seamlessly in with its environment and do it. It's changing itself to match this environment it's in. And this is not something we always want to do, right? We want to be firm in ourselves. We want to know who we are, how we are, and we don't want to change ourselves in order to make others like us or to make a situation easier if it's not true for us, right? There's a certain amount you do, right, to like make a situation amicable for everybody that's involved, but there's also like not being a doormat at the same time, right? So with Octopus here, kind of some of the spirit advice coming in is making sure you're being very firm on what your boundaries are, knowing who you are, and not losing yourself in the process of maybe being in a relationship with somebody else or a friend group. You really want to have a firm grasp on who you are using the intelligence of the octopus at the top right here, right? And not getting too caught up in the emotions and thoughts and perceptions of others and what others perceive you to be, right? You want to make sure you know who you are, so you act accordingly in that manner. And this way you can go with the flow but still be yourself at the same time. It's a balancing act in that regard, right? So with Octopus here as well, right, there is a aspect of like clinginess too. So question what makes you feel safe, right? So if we get lost, or like we've been hurt in the past before, so we really want to try and make sure that people like us, so we're really clingy and we change ourselves in order to fit the friend group that we're in, right? That's not a healthy situation. That's not a healthy perspective to have. So we need to go kind of back in our past, and we need to heal like the initial wounds and make sure everything is okay, right? Octopus is very, very good about bouncing back, and can lose like some of its limbs, right? And it can still function and still hunt for food and still take care of itself and be a very active hunter in its environment, even with some injuries it might sustain. So keep in mind with Octopus here, like take a look at, really make sure you know who you are at your core, and stick with that, and make sure you're honoring yourself and honoring what you need and what's important to you. So keeping your boundaries firm, right? And making sure when you are engaging in relationships with others, in terms of maybe a romantic, even a platonic friendship one, in any relationship with a parent, a sibling, a coworker, whatever, making sure that the relationship stays balanced and that you are not compromising yourself in any capacity or being too clingy or like over enthusiastic for the wrong reasons. Just really making sure we know who we are at the end of the day is super important here for Octopus energy, because when we know who we are, right, we have this brilliant ability to almost manipulate our environment. Now, manipulate can have negative connotations, but it's actually a really good connotation in this regard, where we can change to match our environment in a way we need and make sure that we can get our needs met by doing this kind of almost like changing magic and fitting into spaces, having this versatility, having this flexibility. These are great skills to have, but we just want to make sure they're balanced skills we still know who we are at the end of the day, so we can change and maneuver and do different things with ourselves because we still know who we are at the core, okay? So just really keep that in mind here with Octopus energy. It's really important, okay? So this might just be the energy for the day, maybe a week, month, year, who knows? That's going to be up to you and your intuition and what makes sense for you and what resonates. But if not, feel free to pick another animal in this video, or maybe in some of my previous videos. There are 5 videos now in this series, so lots of animals to pick from and engage with and to get advice from. So do whatever you feel called to do, but just keep that in mind. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye. Hello, group number 9, the elephants group. So elephant energy, at first glance you wouldn't think it's a fire energy, but this card, and when you get deeper into elephant, it makes sense. It makes sense why this is a fire energy. There is in terms of the animal spirit guidebook, that talks about the connection to Indian culture and Ganesh being, I think it's Ganesh, right? Hopefully that's the correct one here. Let me double check before I continue. Yeah, it's Ganesh, thank God. With Ganesh, and Ganesh being the creator and destroyer of obstacles, right? So we think an elephant in terms of that, like a stampede of elephants, like that's going to destroy anything in its path, and that's fire energy for sure, right? There is deep wisdom here with elephants. They are such smart creatures, such smart creatures, like in terms of animals that can be close and or maybe even match human intelligence, elephant's going to be one of those. The other's orca, usually, in my opinion. Orcas and dolphins, but elephants is up there. Elephants can paint, and elephants have culture and ceremonies, and they remember where their dead are, and they are deeply family driven with their young, and just how they interact with each other and how they take care of each other. And they remember like human caretakers that they had like in zoos and different things like that. They're brilliant creatures, and this energy shows up in that wisdom that they have. There is much wisdom that can be gained from elephant energy, so that may be an energy you just personally have. There is a wisdom here, there is a steadiness to you, there is a weight, but not in like terms of actual weights. Like, you have a presence about you, and that's important energy to have. We need elephant people in the world. They help balance things out. So with elephant here specifically too, keeping in mind with the destroyer of obstacles, there is a wisdom that comes from that, and things need to be destroyed in order to be created again, right? It's a process, it's cyclical. This is how things are out in nature, of course, right? Where it's like, okay, something dies and goes through and decays, and then it's fertilizer for the next thing that grows out of that, and then the whole process begins again. This is succession. This is how evolution and everything all ties in together, right? And at the end of the day, there's basics for just creation and destruction at the same time. With that destroying energy here with elephant, there might be something in your life that is getting destroyed that you were maybe holding on to. Elephant comes in and it's just like, nope, this is what's happening now. This is what we're doing, because it has that wisdom behind it. It has that knowledge and knows that this is going to be the better thing to do in the long run. And also at the same time, in order to keep us on our path, to keep us situated and moving forward in the way we're supposed to, this is where the creation of obstacles comes in, where it's like, okay, think about an elephant and the steadiness, and like, you're not going to move an elephant that doesn't want to move, right? So if there's obstacles in your way for something, right, I always picture it as like running into a brick wall, right? You're not going to get through it. You're just going to keep hitting your head on it. It's going to keep hurting. It's not something that's meant for you. It's not something that's supposed to happen, because it's things that are meant for us, things that are part of our path, are supposed to flow easy. There's definitely challenges that come with and a lesson and learning, but for the most part, the things are supposed to be easy for us. Things are supposed to flow. Things are supposed to make sense. Things are supposed to resonate. So if you're hitting this obstacle over and over again, like in different formats and different ways, and the same, like where you just like, no matter how hard you keep going, like every time you apply for that promotion, right, and you just keep getting shot down over and over and over again, maybe it's time to find a different job. Maybe it's time to go to a different place, right? Because there's just, you're hitting this obstacle here that is not going to budge no matter how much you want it to. So just keep that in mind. There might be that energy present here and something to be aware of, because in the long run, if we're not paying attention to these obstacles that are preventing us from going down the wrong path, we're just going to keep hurting ourselves, right? If you keep that, going back to my metaphor for like hitting ourselves, like running our heads into that brick wall, right? That just hurts us in the long run. We're not doing any damage to that brick wall. It's not moving, it's not budging, it's not going to make a lick of difference. It's just hurting us in the process. So we need to change what we're doing and find a different path, go around, figure out the next way to move forward, right? There was something else here with elephant I wanted to cover real quick. Let me see if I can find it. So we had Ganesh, which I thought was interesting, but I won't talk about too much on that because I don't have the knowledge background for it. But the wisdom, good fortune, that's a good thing to kind of keep in mind. The single-mindedness that can happen, right? That's the last little thing for just kind of like a warning, right? With an elephant that's like stampeding and that is destroying obstacles in its way, that's something we want sometimes, but also if the elephant energy, especially with it being a fire energy in this case, it's one we want to have a controlled chaos about. It's when we want to kind of direct the chaos and fire and movement and power in a way that is going to be beneficial for us. So just keep that in mind. Try and keep what you can contain. Try and like see where this is illuminating things in the way, and making sure that destruction energy and or creation of obstacles energy is one that you are paying attention to, because then it'll be easier in the long run. It won't have to create these giant big obstacles in order for you to get the hint, okay? So just keep that in mind for elephant energy here, but it might just be the energy for the day, maybe month, week, year, who knows? That's going to be up to you and your intuition, what resonates and makes sense for you. But if not, feel free to pick another animal in this video. There's 11 other animals to choose from, or feel free to pick another animal in one of my previous videos. There are 5 total videos now in this series, so lots of animals to choose and pick from and connect with. So whatever you feel called so to do, but that is all I have for you today, friend. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 10, the Crow group. So this is my group that if you were wondering if you had psychic abilities or were thinking about your psychic abilities, then yes, they are present. This is something to be aware of about yourself, and honestly most people in the world here on planet Earth do have psychic abilities to some extent. They are that sixth sense for a reason. They are a sense that everybody has, but there are going to be people that are more predisposed to it or have better access to it or just are more sensitive in general. So if that sounds like you, then this crow energy is going to be super important to kind of pay attention to and keep in mind. Crow is a very spiritual, psychic animal connection with the mythos and the knowledge that's behind it. I think in like more recent mythos that's kind of shown up, the three-eyed raven in Game of Thrones. Raven and crows are of the same species, if I remember correctly. I think that's true. I think that's just the subspecies. That's a little different, but either way they are very similar birds and have a similar connection, and there is psychic energy that are present in both birds. With crow here specifically, and the kind of ball that it's sitting on, right, that's that psychic energy, that connection to this other realm, this other set of senses, this other ability that is present. Crow is really pays attention in like past, present, future. There is that energy of seeing things that others don't see, knowing things that others don't know. So in terms of looking at psychic gifts, it's going to be more like clairsentience, clairaudience. Those are kind of going to be showing up a little bit more. Clairvoyant, of course, that is the seeing part. And crow is, for this group, one that feels like it could be a potential like a guide for, in terms of a guide being able to show up as a crow, or crow / raven being like an archetype. Like there are, in my experience, there are the archetype like animals that are like the all-encompassing, right? So there is one crow that is representative of all crows, and that is that archetype energy and interacting with that animal, right? And that's kind of how this feels, where it's like that might be, depending on how it resonates, like a spirit animal, totem animal. There's certain like aspects to that, of course, but this might be like a power animal potentially for you, and something to look into, right? Crow energy is connected to the air and the mind, of course, too. So we see the air element symbol on the top of this card, and that is like the air in our mind. Of course, that ties in heavily with our psychic energy as well, right? That is like our mind, how we think, how we process. And a lot of this energy, psychic energy, comes through in that same space where that's like clairsentience, where you just kind of like know things, where you're like, okay, hey, no, but I think this is what's happening, or I think this is what I'm feeling. Pay attention to your dreams as well. That's going to be important in terms of like psychic kind of future predicting energy. That's that past, present, future showing up with crow energy, but also this kind of mystical like orb that the crow is sitting on, right? That access to these higher realms, this higher psychic knowledge and ability and skill set. So in terms of spirit advice for this group, there is definitely a call for awareness and making sure that you know that these abilities do exist and how to cultivate and grow these abilities if you feel a desire to do so. If not, if you don't feel the desire to grow the abilities, then just making sure that you know how they affect you, right? Somebody that is empathic or highly sensitive can get very tired, can get drained by energy vampires in certain situations. So knowing how to protect yourself, knowing how to keep your energy grounded and maintained is going to be super important for you as a group, for this group specifically for Crow. So just making sure, even if you decide not to pursue the growth of your abilities and pursue like knowledge and like refining your abilities, knowing how to protect yourself from the negatives, the sensitivities that come from these abilities is also going to be just super important for you, right? Even just some basic things where it's like, okay, you're making sure you're grounding your energy, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot more clarity and focus because you didn't realize at the time, you didn't have the awareness to know that you were like spacing out and like connecting with energies that were not in the physical plane. So grounding crystals are going to be super important. Anything that's like a black or a brown or a red color is going to be like a good grounding stone. So just keep that in mind, like a red quartz, a jasper, black stones, onyx, black quartz potentially. I was getting the vision of mine in my head, like a snow, like a what's the word I want? Not snowy quartz. Snow like obsidian was what I was thinking of, but I'll remember it at some point. But there's a specific type of quartz that is kind of like that black color, and that's going to be a good stone to have as well to just help ground your energy if you do not pursue the refinement of your psychic skills. Okay. So just keep that in mind, Crow group. These are good skills to have. These are skills I use and interact with, and they are ones that can give you lots of information and abilities and energy, but they can also they have some negatives too. They can be draining. So there's just a balancing to make sure that you can take care of yourself with these abilities present in your life. Okay. But this just might be the energy for the day, week, month, year, who knows. It's going to be up to you and your intuition and what resonates and makes sense for you. So just keep that in mind. Feel free to pick another animal in this video or in the previous videos. There are 11 other animals in this video, and there are 4 other videos besides this video. We're a total of 5 videos in this entire series, so lots of animals to choose from, lots of animals to interact with and come back to if you feel called to do so. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye. And the group number 11, the Zebra group. So Zebra energy here. It's a very interesting energy in terms of the animal spirit guidebook. It talks about a zebra being kind of like an eccentric, kind of like visionary energy, and that does make sense and resonates because the way a zebra looks something like out of a Dr. Seuss book, right? It's not an animal that you would expect to see. It's like you took a horse and slapped black and white stripes on it, and it just seems kind of silly and kind of fanciful, right? And that makes sense in terms of the animal spirit guidebook energy. And it's like, okay, this is a very visually present, eccentric kind of person energy wise, but isn't quite what I was getting when I was thinking about zebra energy and the archetype and how this energy is present to me in the world. Zebra in this card specifically, it's a fire energy, and that makes sense for the balancing of self to me, where it's like, okay, we have these black and white stripes, right? So we have this positive and negative aspect. We have this light and dark, this light and shadow, black and white kind of energy where it's these opposites, right? But at the same time, they're present and together on the same creature here, right? And it's this alternative energy, back and forth energy, and this kind of merging and blending together. And to me, what zebra really talks about is balancing ourselves, right? All these opposing aspects that we have in ourselves, this masculine and feminine, everybody has light and shadow, positive and negative, and that's even present in something that's quote unquote light energy, right? Taking oh, this is something that's super positive, even that has its negative aspect to it. It's a light aspect but has negative things to it. For example, right, it's okay, we consider lights, the sun, to be a super positive thing, right? But too much light can blind us and too much light can burn us, right? Keeping those in mind at the same time, it's this positive thing, this quote unquote positive thing, but too much of it can always harm us, right? Versus on the other hand, dark shadow, that is a protective energy. It can hide us in the night and keep us safe, but it helps us sleep and rest at the same time too, right? So this is quote unquote dark and this negative aspect, but these are the positives in that one specifically. So these countering aspects, these countering forces of light and dark, positive and negative, really show up for me here in zebra specifically, where it's these opposing aspects embodied in one creature, if that makes sense. And we really see, especially with this card and the zebra in this card with the gem in the center, that third eye, this really big focus on how to balance those, thinking at a higher level, thinking at a more psychic, like bigger energy kind of sixth sense here, and really having knowing ourselves really well in order to make sure we are balanced in all the ways, right? Making sure, because we all have positive and negatives to ourself, our personality. We have ways, like I've always heard, and something that I've really stuck to is like our biggest strength is also our biggest weakness, right? So somebody that is highly empathetic is really good at like helping people, right? Might not be so good at taking care of themselves, or they are overstepping boundaries because they do feel so much and know what that's going on with that person, but they are not being aware of the boundaries taking place in impinge, I don't know if that's the right word, overstep their boundaries in this person's life, right? So that's a positive and negative to that one aspect, right? Somebody who is empathetic or can see that the concept of empathy is a really good, considered like a positive trait, but there's positive and negatives within that as well. So keep in mind with zebra here to just really take a look internally at ourselves, using that third eye, using that internal like focused energy, that kind of meditation like energy, to really figure out who you are at the core, where these aspects lie, what is considered quote unquote light, what is considered quote unquote dark, what is considered positive, what's considered negative, what's masculine, what's feminine, how these energies all exist within each individual person, within yourself, and making sure everything does stay in balance, okay? And none of it is bad at the end of the day. None of it is quote unquote bad. It's just what exists and what is present in us, and how we can use it best to our advantage. We know we are working and moving through the world in the best way possible by knowing who we are, knowing ourselves, knowing how we react to things and how we process situations in order to move forward in the best way. If you know yourself really deep down to the core and how you might react in any situation, then you can move forward in the best possible way in anything life throws at you, right? So keep that in mind for zebra energy today. There is some lighthearted energy for it that is like that fun and being present and being seen, but really make sure to just keep yourself balanced and whole and know who you are at the end of the day, okay, zebra energy? But that's all I have for group number 11 here. This might just be the energy for the day, maybe a week, month, year, who knows? That's going to be up to you, your intuition, whatever resonates and makes sense for you. So just keep that in mind. Feel free to pick another animal in this video. There's 11 other animals to choose from. There's 12 animals total, and then 4 other videos besides this video, so feel free to go back to any of those and to connect with another animal if you feel called to do so. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, my final group number 12, the camel group. Camel energy, I think, is interesting that it's labeled as a fire card in this book specifically, and in this deck, but the environment it lives in definitely lends to that energy, with that kind of deserty environment, and it does make sense for the amount of preparedness you have to have for that kind of environment, right? The desert environment that a camel lives in is a very harsh environment for sure, and one that needs a lot of mental preparation and fortitude is how I kind of feel it, right? So that describes you. That's cool. That's awesome. But with camel here also, we really talk about resourcefulness, the level of like self-care and preparation and like internal knowledge that kind of happens with camel here, right? So we think about camel and the way that it stores water, and it's like those the humps, right? And really making sure that like those emotions are taken care of, right? This is water energy, and we do see that with the moon in this card here, that kind of aspect of water, which is our emotions and everything. So those being stored properly and used in a way that is beneficial to us, that is helpful to our energy and navigating our environment, and being used in a way that is really clever, actually. It's really interesting to think about it, the use of emotions this way. And with this resourcefulness, right, we're also like just the aspects of water and talking about how to keep ourselves safe in whatever environment we're in, how to make sure we are prepared, and knowing how and when to use these resources is super important, right? So a camel person, I'd say, is the one that knows themselves very well, knows what they have to offer, knows what they can hold, what they can maintain, and what they can use within themselves in order to navigate their environments. And that's a really strong and interesting energy to use and to have. It's one that I'm like, okay, how can I use this myself a little bit more, right? So in terms of spirit advice for Camel here, take a look at what resources you have, whether they are both in this case. Actually, look at your physical resources and like your mental, emotional resources, and see what you have, what you can store in a healthy way, in a balanced way, that's going to be beneficial to you in the long run as you're going through a situation, right? Camel especially is the preparedness that is in a harsh environment, right? If you know you're going to go through some type of hardship coming up potentially, we can't always prepare, of course, for these kinds of things, but there are ways that we can fortify ourselves, have that mental and emotional fortitude in order to handle difficult situations that might be presenting themselves in your life. And that's something to keep in mind here with Camel, right? We can't always prepare in terms of financials. I know, and especially in America, it is very difficult to get ahead in most cases, right? But whatever money you can have saved in terms of that, having your credit cards paid down, just being able to be prepared for whatever situation that life may throw at you. Difficult in the physical for sure, but there's much we can do in terms of the emotional and mental, right? So really making sure our mental well-being, our mental health is really, really solid, that we have the what's the word I want? The systems in place to handle stress that might pop up in our lives. That's going to be really, really important. We have healthy ways to cope with our emotions that might pop up as well. So not going to vices, right? That drinking, that smoking, those kinds of things that can be harmful to us. They're not bad in like a day thing, right? Where it's like a one-off thing that happens every 6 months. That's not a big deal, right? But when we're constantly going to those vices, that is showing a lack of preparedness, a dehydration on part of the Camel energy here. So we can be mentally fortified and emotionally fortified for any difficult situations that come up, and that's something we can always prepare for, that we can always do. We can make sure those are in place, because those don't always require physical resources. There might be a need of like a therapist or something. Everybody can use therapy, but there are ways, resources and books we can read and different things we can do in order to make sure we have these systems in place to handle a difficult situation that might come up in our lives at any point in our lives, right? If you put the systems in place now, they're ones that'll always be available to you, that you can always go back to at whatever point in your life, right? They'll be just as beneficial to you now as they will 20 years from now, 40 years from now. If you have these proper systems in place to handle your mental stress, your emotional stress, and even your physical stress, right? If you taking up boxing, right, or working out to make sure you keep yourself in good physical health, but it's also a way to release that energy. I personally just like crying when I need to just release those emotions out of myself, and I find journaling is also really, really beneficial to process emotions. Even talking to like a camera like this, I'll do video journals, and that really helps me process my emotions. And having these things in place, this is Camel energy, right, to make sure that we have this resource built up, this backup, and resourcefulness that we can always lean on at the end of the day when we're going through a difficult situation, a difficult environment like the desert and the Camel, okay? So keep that in mind in terms of spirit advice. This might just be the energy for the day, week, month, year, who knows? That's going to be up to you and your intuition and what resonates and makes sense for you. But feel free to pick another animal in this video. There's 11 other animals to choose from, or in the previous videos, there's 4 other videos for a total of 5 in this series with 12 animals each. So lots of animals to choose from, connect with, pick. So whatever resonates with you and makes sense, feel free to do. But that's all I have for us today, friends. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.